Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to our webinar, How to Get Email Marketing Right. My name's Joanne Dolezal from Dolezal Consulting, and I'm going to take you through a fairly brisk presentation this afternoon because I really appreciate you taking time out on your Monday afternoon to be with us. But we will have a Q&A session at the end, and if we can't get to everybody's questions today, then I'll come back to you via email. Obviously, it's really nice when people have registered via email because we've got your contact details then. So without much further ado, I think we will start. So the program for today's webinar is a 30-minute webinar on how to get your email marketing right, RITE. So these are the main things when you're looking at the content of your campaigns. How do you make sure that they are relevant to the people receiving them? How do you keep them interesting? What are the different styles of email marketing that exist? The different kinds of campaigns that you can send? How do you make your campaigns timely, both in terms of sorry, my technical support has got a really bad cold today. Apologies, I can hear nose blowing in the background. How do you make sure that your campaigns reach them at the right time for them? Because you know what? Just because somebody hasn't bought from you yet, it doesn't mean that they never will. It just means that you have to hit them at the right time. And then finally, how can you make those campaigns as engaging as possible? And by engaging, how can you get as close to them as far as possible under their skin so they really enjoy receiving your emails? They're always going to make time to read them, and they're going to stay on your list and follow through on all those wonderful things that you want to offer to them. We'll wrap up today's session with a brief Q&A. I don't want to take too much of your Monday afternoon, but we will address some questions at the end of the session if we haven't covered them in the slides. So a little bit about me. Joanne Dolezal. I run Dolezal Consulting in Newcastle upon Tyne, and I'm a marketing consultant. I focus really on strategic marketing consultancy, but in the last few years, I've stretched into digital marketing, content marketing, social media. And for me, it's really about making sure that whatever the client, they have the best tools available to them to reach their target customers. And you know, sometimes for a client, that's completely offline. So it isn't all 100% digital, 100% online. However, email marketing is one of the most powerful things that you can do. So that's why I want to take you through RITE today. So if I were to tell you that the return on investment, the average return on investment for every pound you spend on email marketing is £40 or more, that's when I think people start to pay attention to email marketing. You know, we've all gone through the years of receiving really dull newsletters from businesses, full of their own dull news. They're not interested in us. They've won an award. They've sponsored a sports team or something, and you know, it's not that they shouldn't be sharing their news, but actually, unless they can tell us how that benefits us, what's in it for me, then I'm afraid we kind of switched off in recent years. But I think there's also been an advent of email marketing that, let's face it, is just a lot more fun. We now have beautiful templates that we can use, email marketing software that lets us send gorgeous HTML campaigns. And I think it's raised the bar. Our expectations are a lot higher now on what we want to receive as consumers, but I think also what our customers are expecting of us. But definitely that ROI of 1 to 44 is completely right. And I think if you think back to recent campaigns, and you consider how little it cost you to send them, and then the sales that you got out of it, or even the person who hit reply, you haven't heard from them in a while, they want to touch base, and they have somebody that they want to recommend you to. You know, this is all completely relevant. Okay, so RITE. It's a term that we use regularly within content marketing. And content marketing is a means of self-publishing content to the web that's either text-based, it's video, audio, or graphics and photography. So those are the kind of 4 ingredients of content. Content marketing is really, really user-focused. It's really consumer-focused. It's about building trust, getting people to like you long before they've decided they're going to buy from you. But it's also an excellent way to maintain customer loyalty. Content marketing works just as well for that, first stages, top of the funnel, to after somebody's bought from you, and customer retention. So this is where RITE comes from. So what do we mean by RITE? Well, that's what I'm going to take you through in the slides today. Why is it important though? Well, as an email marketer, your biggest challenge is always going to be to get this email read and the next one opened. People are just an overflowing inbox away from unsubscribing. And we all do this from time to time. We're just getting too much email. We can't manage it all. I'm going to have a curl. I'm going to unsubscribe from yours. I'm really sorry. I like you. I've been on your list for a long time, but I'm unsubscribing. And this is how we all manage our inboxes. So get this one read and the next one opened. So where do you start? Well, you need a good quality mailing list. If you're interested in how to build good quality contact data and then develop customer insights, we have a sister webinar to this one, and I will share links in the follow-up email to this webinar. So quality mailing list, one that you've ideally built yourself. You have some connection with those people. You know where you got the data, and you know what they were interested in when they joined your mailing list. So good quality mailing list. Obviously, the more targeted, the more relevant, the better. It's much easier to convert people who are going down a very logical journey with you. Then what do you do next? Are you going to be investing in some email marketing software, or are you going to use one of the free versions like MailChimp or MadMimi, something like that? Or you're just going to use the email client that you have on your computer, because you can do very good email marketing from Outlook or from Mail or whatever email software you're using. And in fact, there's a trend away from very designed email campaigns to sort of more text-based, which suit themselves brilliantly to just using a classic sort of email client. Then you're going to be thinking about customer data, because without insight, without a feeling for what these people are interested in, why they keep opening your emails, why they're clicking on various links, without that insight, over time, you're going to find it harder and harder to send your campaigns out. You'll spend every month or every week sat there thinking, what do we need to write about? What do we need to say? We don't really know these people, and we don't really know what they're interested in. And I think this is where a lot of businesses run out of steam with their email marketing, because they're getting very little from the list that they have, and they don't really know what people are interested in. But we have a few ideas within the presentation today that might get you started. So a good starting point is to get, think about your strategy first. So it's not about what do we want to say to them, what news do we want to share with them. It's really about what is the CTA, what is the call to action. So if I know that I would like somebody to go to my website and download one of my ebooks, like Top 21 Marketing Essentials or Marketing MOT, that's what I'm going to put as the call to action. I'm going to tell them about those ebooks, about the fact that they're free, the value of the content to them, and then how easy it is to get their hands on it. And then I'm going to put the link in several times and make it really, really easy. So what is the call to action? Now, you might be sending a sales campaign out. So if the call to action is to visit the landing page on your website where somebody can actually make that purchase, you make it as easy as possible, but you don't confuse them with lots of other messages within that campaign. So strategy first, Every time you sit down to write an email campaign, and campaign's just the jargon really for that single email that you're sending out. It isn't necessarily a series of emails. What do you want them to do after they've read it? Where are you sending them? And by the way, is it ready to receive them? Is it set up yet? Okay, so what is the call to action? Think about the sequence as well. Do you need to take them on several stages in this journey? Design it first and then set it up. And do you know what? The nifty pictures and the video and the changing fonts and text colors and all that kind of stuff, it comes last. Because that's not why people buy from you. They buy because of the substance. They don't buy because it looked absolutely fantastic. Okay? Design can get in the way. Let's face it, we've all received some real corkers in the past in our inboxes, but it isn't why people are buying from you. Okay, so let's get into the heart of the presentation. R is for relevant. Me, and me. And that's all I'm interested in. I'm really sorry because it's my inbox and me. Stuff about me, my stuff I hate. Others, they're very, very far out. They're on the edge of my universe. I'm not really that interested in what everybody else is up to, which is why, sadly, I'm not really that interested in the sports team that you sponsored or the awards ceremony that you just got a gong at. Unless you can translate it into a benefit for me, I'm just not that interested. And neither are they. Sadly, they're not interested in brand-centric emails anymore because there's nowhere else in marketing where we get away with that anymore, okay? So your social media, if your social media is just about you, people aren't connecting with you. And if your content marketing is all about you, they're definitely not connecting with you. Our customers, our consumers are used to being spoiled and indulged and thought about and considered in everything that we do now. And this is what you need to do with your email marketing as well. Okay. So how do you get their attention? How do you make it as relevant to them? The first 2 or 3 words of your subject line are crucial. Because if it's blah, 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 news about us, aren't we clever? Nobody's interested anymore. Ideally, you get the word you or your into that subject line in some way, and you have a really clear benefit to them as to why they should open that campaign. This counts even more so if somebody is reading your emails on a mobile device like the smartphone. You have so little space or time now to get their attention. What makes it easier is if they're used to receiving good quality emails from you, then they'll give you a bit more time, they will open. But the first 2 or 3 words are crucial. Now, one of the questions that we've received today is about where do you get ideas for this? Would you know what? The Sun, the Sun, that excellent quality daily, is a fantastic source of information. The Sun is a UK daily newspaper that deals to the less serious-minded consumer. The Sun writes absolutely corking headlines, things that get your attention, and they draw you in. They make you want to read that story. Even if they don't relate directly to the story, they make you want to read the story. Another great place is women's magazines, Cosmopolitan in particular. But any tabloid paper, anything that's appealing to the common man or woman is a really great place to look for subject lines, because this is what gets our attention. So how do you pique their curiosity? You make the benefit to them. What's in it for me? I hear them cry. And then you test. And the nice thing about using email marketing software is even the free versions, they let you test all sorts of things. And they'll even give you a kind of rating on whether or not your subject line is going to work. So I want you just to spend a moment, if your emails aren't in front of you and you're not multitasking as you're listening to this webinar, which I hope you are. I hope you're not slacking off this afternoon. But I want you to have a look through your inbox now, just for a moment or two, and see if there are any headlines that have caught your attention. And maybe after the webinar finishes this afternoon, go back in and then think about the ones you've opened, the ones that caught your attention. Why did they appeal to you? Was it something that was particularly enticing or intriguing? Did it make you laugh? Was there a clear benefit to you? Did you recognize the business or the sender and think, oh, yeah, I always enjoy reading this stuff. I know that these guys are a good source of information, because these are the reasons that people are going to open yours as well. And then think about how you can adapt those to your own business. So that's a really good source of inspiration. So another thing related to relevancy is relevant to your recipient. There's a real cultural bias around the from name. I don't know why this is the case, but it would appear that a female name seems to get a higher open rate than a male name. I don't know why it should be that way, but it is. Statistically, it is. The things that really don't work for you in terms of the recipient will be things like sales at or info at. And also when you're gathering contact data, a lot of the email marketing software doesn't like those kind of generic email addresses, because they know that it's often going to just go into a spam folder, and that is going to affect their statistics overall. And just as a rule of thumb, don't put a do not reply address as the sender email, because if you're smart, then what a lot of people will do, if they like what's in your campaign, they'll hit reply and they'll respond to you. I always send my campaigns from me, Joanne at dolezalconsulting.com. And I'm on the other end of that. So when somebody comes back and says, hi, Joanne, I haven't heard from you in a while. I was just talking to somebody the other day and they could use some marketing advice. You know, that comes straight to my inbox. I know who it's from, and they know they're going to get a response straight away. So a named sender is more trusted. So I've put a couple of examples here for you. So Social Media Examiner, excellent daily update on what's changing in social media. Michael Stelzner sends those himself. So it's from his address. If you were to hit reply, you'd know that somebody very, very quickly would respond to your email. It wouldn't just go into some kind of weird ether. Another nice example that I got was from a local Northeast publication, a business publication, the Northeast Times. If I want to reply to them, I can just hit reply to Alison. And I know that somebody there, and a real person, is going to respond to my email going back to them. So these are things that you can do very easily for yourself. And if you're worried about having, clogged up inbox, then maybe you can set up some other email accounts for yourself. Another thing about relevancy, and another thing that affects open rates, is that a lot of the email clients, that's the email software we use to read and consume our emails, like Outlook or Mail, the default setting is that images are turned off. So it's really important that if you do use images, design files, photography, whatever it is to illustrate those templates that you're sending out, and let's face it, a well-designed HTML campaign is a joy to receive, then make sure that you have used the alt tags behind those images, so that if I don't have it open, I can see that it's the Sainsbury's logo. I can see what that image is about. And what I've noticed a lot of people will do is they'll put a really sort of smart call to action in the alt tag behind that image, so that I know that if I click here, I can go to view a particular product or a particular service. So it's a wasted opportunity if you don't put anything in there. And then the best way of making sure that your campaigns are relevant is by developing your buyer personas. And some people call them avatars, hence the rather lovely poster. Now, a buyer persona is a kind of a deep pen portrait description of a client type who typifies maybe a group of customers or a group of targets that you have for your business. They have certain things in common. But they're more than just a kind of classic segmentation category like chief exec, managing director. It goes into much more depth about what that person is trying to achieve, what their goals are, perhaps what the desired outcome is for them. Because not all of our purchases, let's face it, are things that are unpleasant for us. So if I'm doing my Christmas shopping and I'm looking for some jewelry for a family member, that's a really nice thing to buy. But obviously, if my washing machine has broken down and I have issues with replacing it, then that is a distressed purchase. So we have different goals for absolutely every different thing that we buy. So the more you can understand what your customers' motivations are, the better. It helps you to understand what they have in common, but it also helps you to answer the question, how can I best serve them? How can I serve them differently to anybody else? What's unique about my business, the way that I offer my services? Because every business has its own buyer personas. I've worked with clients where they developed 2. I have another client where they developed 12, and they were all genuine and relevant. It didn't mean that every single buyer persona always got their own campaign, but we knew that those people had unique things in common to each other. And what this helps you to do is to be a lot more efficient and a lot more streamlined when you're setting up your campaigns. You may find that there's like a core content that is relevant to everybody, but then you need to customize it to those different people, either what they're trying to achieve, or perhaps the problems that they're facing, or even where they are in that buyer journey. Are these people who are just thinking about it, just starting to think about it? Or is it somebody who really they're down to the last 3 and this is your chance to pitch and say why it should be you? So they're unique to your business, they're meaningful to you, and they should be an inspiration to you. If you've got a well fleshed out avatar, you may have given them a name. You may have clicked pictures from magazines to build up a picture of that person, the life around them, almost like a design agency would create a mood board. And they are really, really powerful because then you are writing to one person. And that's when your emails really, really come to life. And if buyer personas is something that's of interest to you and it's something that you'd like to develop for your business, we'll be running a webinar in the next few months on buyer personas. So keep an ear out for it. Now, in case you've been scribbling frantically, which I hope you have, of course, and I hope you're enjoying the webinar this afternoon, but we will be sharing a link. You'll be able to view and replay this webinar for the next 14 days. But we also have a little freebie that we'll be sending out by email tomorrow. And that is the RITE email marketing checklist. And it's just a little summary of the main learnings from today so that you've got something to hand, maybe to have on the wall in the office, and just something to check off every time you sit down to write a campaign. Okay, I is for interesting. And variety is the spice of life. So perhaps experiment with different types of email campaign. Now, many businesses, many organizations send a newsletter. I'm afraid there's a shameless plug here for my own. I do apologize. But it's an opportunity to maintain top of mind awareness with the people who are on your mailing list. Now, I do a newsletter, but I also do different types of email campaign as well. But it's almost like a little newspaper with a variety of topics and a variety of themes. And this is where a lot of businesses will start. And it's not a bad place to start, but just make sure that when you're putting content into that newsletter, how can you make it of most benefit to the person who's reading it? I think the acid test is always a kind of so what. So everything you're stating, if you can say so what, but give a good answer as to, well, this is what, this is why it's interesting, this is why it's beneficial, then it's almost like being the editor of your own newspaper and being a little bit harsh with yourself about what goes in. Okay, but a newsletter is a very good place to start. And it's something that you can do perhaps on a monthly or a quarterly basis, particularly if you're B2B. It doesn't bombard your mailing list with news about you. It's also something that is likely to be, in terms of the core content, relevant to most of the people you're connected to, whether they are somewhere in your sales pipeline or they've already bought from you, they're a past client. A digest newsletter is slightly different. Now, Brain Pickings is a weekly email publication. It's quite highbrow, but I've seen other sectors and other industries where this kind of thing applies. The author has actually managed to monetize it because the content is so good, it's so well researched, and it's so enjoyable to read that people will either pay to subscribe or they will pay to donate. And I think it's just quite an interesting format. Also, if you want to develop your writing skills, you can go and subscribe for free. It comes out on a Sunday morning. It's a very nice way to spend a Sunday morning as well, particularly if, like me, you're interested in literature, you're interested in the arts, and what's going on in other parts of the world, what's going on in publishing, for example. But a digest. Now, you could do a digest for your industry or for your sector. There's nothing to stop you being that curator who pulls together a variety of interesting news items that are of benefit to the person reading them. Guess what? They'll be really grateful. They will thank you for it in the way that people are grateful when you share good content with them. You share a link to an interesting article or a guide that's going to help them. People are grateful. A dedicated email will be a campaign that's been created to basically get you to do something. So this is a lovely one from Paper Chase. Great design, seasonal offer, really clear call to action, and a great subject line. Bow selector, absolutely brilliant. You're looking for gift wrap for your Christmas presents. Lead nurturing. So this is a where you might send a series of emails to somebody, either on a daily basis or a weekly basis, or perhaps over a period of time. And what you're trying to do is to onboard them gradually, either with services that you offer, or perhaps with a philosophy, a way of working, and a way of thinking. There's clear benefit to the recipient. Do you know what? I'm going to stay and receive all 10. Thank you very much, because I'll come back to this at some stage when I'm looking at my brand. I'm looking about, trying to work out what my USPs are, what makes me unique. This is a series I'm going to keep in a folder, and I'll come back to this again and again and again. Is this something that you can do in your email marketing? Can you give people a little mini course in what you do, what you're expert in, obviously without giving too much away? So that's how you can make your campaigns interesting, by having a variety of formats. Okay, so moving on, T is for timely. And this is actually a photograph that was taken by a friend of mine here in Newcastle, copywriter, but she's also a photographer called Catherine Wildman. And I wanted to give her a credit because I think it's just the most superb piece of photography. T is for timely. Your customer's journey used to be nice and tidy. Any old marketers listening will remember that it used to be ADA, awareness, interest, desire, action. Gone are the days when it was so tidy. Nowadays, it's more like Flight of the Bumblebee. And your customer is going to have looked at maybe 12 or more different sources of information, reassurance, testimonials, what you said about the product, what a third-party review site said about the product. Goodness me, this is a new purchase, and particularly an online purchase. They are going to want to be as sure as possible that you're not going to rip them off, that they're not going to be disappointed. You need to be at every stage along this journey with different kinds of content, different kinds of emails, actually, not just a one size fits all. So think about your customers. How much do you know about that customer journey? And timely is also about arriving at the right time in their inbox. Either time when they have time to read it. You know, you might send the best emails in the world and they might be beautifully written and absolutely fascinating and chock-a-block with great content. But if you send them on a Friday afternoon and it's 2:45 and somebody's got to shut up shop and go and get the kids from school, they're not reading it. And chances are by Monday morning when they come back in again, their inbox is going to be full and yours will have just fallen down the waterfall of email. So thinking about when you send it to somebody is really important. When are you busy? When are they busy? If you're not too sure, why don't you go over and look at something like your Facebook page? In your analytics, you'll see your people's tab or your people tab. That will tell you when the people who are connected to you on Facebook, by and large, will be people who are also on your mailing list. The times of day when they're on Facebook and when they're looking at your content. That might also give you a steer as to the best time of day or the best day of the week. Location is where they're reading it. Is it on the smartphone, on the tube, heading home, skim through emails? It's Thursday evening, 6 o'clock, and I'm desperate for G&T. Or is it Wednesday lunchtime, and actually I'm going to sit down now and do an hour of email? Think about where they're doing it. Do they know you? Do they trust you? Is there a name? Are you a named sender? Are you a no reply at? How much other work have they got going on, and what are their personal priorities? Because let's face it, from time to time, we all just get a little bit overwhelmed, and maybe we go and clear our inbox out a bit. And you know, it's nothing personal. It's people being efficient. Finally, E is for engaging. And I love this image because this is a relationship where somebody is sharing information that is extremely interesting and relevant to the person who's reading it. They are fully absorbed in consuming that information, and it's a lovely personal experience. This is what you are aiming towards in your email marketing. To get as close as possible to people, to really reach out to them, to appeal to them so that they feel like they are the only person in the room. And, you know, if you think it isn't possible, again, look at your inbox. I bet you've got a few people who email you who really get it right. They really care. They really want to help you, and they really, really have great stuff to share with you again and again and again. So that engaging piece is really important. So how do you get your email opened? How do you make it engaging for them? So again, subject line has to appeal to them, appeal to self-interest, make it relevant to the recipient. Sometimes in certain industries, there are certain keywords that will get things opened. So test those subject lines. Good subject line, appealing offer, customer insight, and clear call to action, all within one campaign. I'll just break it down a little bit. So good subject line, no horses' heads here, is obviously a reference to the Godfather films. You've got to be over a certain age to know the Godfather films intimately. But if you are old enough to know them, then, you know, we know that it became a saying and it's something that was a bit of a joke. So they know that the recipient is somebody who is over the age of 40. And again, this clever joke is carried down to the graphic, quite simply, the Don of all t-shirts, with a reference to Don Corleone. It's an appealing offer. Yes, please, up to 20% off with free delivery and returns. Yes, that sounds great. Thank you very much. They've demonstrated customer insight by understanding the age group of the recipient. And there's a really clear call to action. I know exactly where I'm supposed to click on this campaign. I know what they want me to do, and I know what the offer is. And let's face it, a t-shirt is a t-shirt. It's an easy thing to purchase. Email copy needs to be engaging as well. So personalization can sometimes work to your advantage. If you have enough correct, accurate data about the people receiving your campaigns, then I would definitely recommend testing personalization. Perhaps send a few campaigns side by side where you do personalize certain fields. And what I've seen done very effectively is where the personalization is perhaps 2/3 of the way down the page within a question, and that your name is embedded within that question. And it's almost like a wake-up call, and you think, oh my goodness, they really are addressing me. So structure, make it easy to read and easy to scan, as you would say with web copy or a blog. Make it really easy to scan the page. Lovely example of personalization here. Quite a bit of information, personalized information in this campaign. It's personalized to the recipient, personalized to the dog's kennel name, and actually personalized to the breed of the dog. Very, very clever. Really, really great. Okay, so spam filters. Now this is really important because you need to be able to get your email into somebody's inbox, and there are certain factors where the email client may class it as spam. So try to avoid some of these, maybe sort of less best practice tactics. Obviously, obscenity, anything that's obscene or curse words won't get through with an awful lot of the spam filters. Click here, sale, offer, free can be tricky. They can be tricky, and your emails may go into spam. And also images and attachments, particularly attachments. Try never to add an attachment to an email campaign. It won't get through. So moving on, so what are we going to look at? How will we know how all of this has worked for us? So if you're using email marketing software, you'll get a lot of analytical data that tells you how your campaigns have performed. So you'll get all of this information, but really the things you want to know are how many people opened it? What was the percentage of people on that list that opened it? Some people will say, you know, so what should your open rate be? That's a really tricky one. But I would say if you have segmented your lists and you have a feeling for how close those people are to you. Do you know the people on that list? Have you ever met them? Or are they people who've just signed up through a lead magnet on your website, you know, where they're interested, but they don't have a close personal relationship to you? You might find the open rate is lower. For myself, I find that my warmest list and the people I know the best, I might get a 55, 60% open rate on those campaigns. Sometimes it's as high as 70%. But you know, if it's a mailing list that I've gathered from people I've met at a trade show, I'm happy if it's a 20, 25% open rate, because I'll be looking at unsubscribes, but I'll also be looking at clicks. The other thing you're going to be looking at is conversions. Conversions in email marketing and digital marketing is not, did they buy something? It's, did they follow the call to action? You put a call to action in the copy. You told them what you wanted them after they did they do it? That's a conversion. So you've moved them on to the next stage in the relationship with you. Lovely. Tap. Helps you getting the timing right, either best them to receive it or best time in their customer journey. Position for people who just joined your list. That's but it allows you and enables you to send and create campaigns and marketing that is much more relevant and has a far higher conversion rate. Don't bore the socks off them. They've got an inbox full of really boring, horrible emails that they're going to have to deal with, so make yours fun. Hit them at the right time and make it engaging, okay? Put a little bit of effort in and you will reap massive rewards. Okay, so moving on to questions now. Got a couple of questions come in from people on the webinar. Just have a quick look. The first one I'm going to address is a great question. Is it okay to sell my products and services via email? Oh, yes. Oh, absolutely. Maybe not in the first email, but if you can build them up to a series of emails, oh my goodness, yes. This is why a lot of people will say the money is in the list, because what you may do is send them a series of emails that basically guide them along a journey. And then you'll send the email that says, and the sales are closing, the doors are closing, bookings are closing tonight at midnight. And you know, you put a time limit on that offer or when something is available until, and people will buy. They will jump because they either wanted it or they didn't, and you're helping them. But absolutely sell your products and services via email. But do the hard work and think about how they benefit the recipient. And if you can put quotations in there and testimonials, more's the better. What a lot of people will do is have a landing page, dedicated landing page set up on their website, either visible or hidden, that serves people and gives them all the information they need once they've followed a link through. And then that's a nicer environment perhaps to buy from within. But absolutely do sell your services via email. I struggle to come up with ideas for things to include in my emails. Do you have any tips? Well, I think, again, if you can go back and think about your products and services, go into the detail. Don't say what you do, say what it does and what the benefit is. Break it down product by product, service by service. Go through your testimonials, go through the feedback you've had from customers. What have they said about the difference it's made to their personal life or their working life? Because this is rich vocabulary, this is rich data. This gives you an indication of what made somebody buy from you before. Brainstorming is really valuable. And I would also say that if you haven't done any work on content marketing and learning about content marketing, then absolutely move in this direction, okay? Now that's all we have time for today. There are a couple of other questions, but one of them is a little bit longer and it's a little bit more complex. So I'm going to come back to that person via email. If you have any questions after today, please just drop me a line. You have an email from me with the joining instructions. We'll be sending out a little freebie, the RITE email marketing checklist. That'll be in your inbox tomorrow. So if you'd like to know any more, we have a series of webinars that we are doing on a monthly basis. We will automatically invite you to future webinars, and we'd love to see you again. We run regular live training sessions here in Newcastle upon Tyne. So the special offer with today's webinar is for introduction to email marketing and MailChimp. And it really takes you under the bonnet, but we also build buyer personas on that workshop. And we do quite a long session on generating great ideas for your campaigns. And then our bite-sized online courses will launch this autumn. And those are designed to be nice, quick, inexpensive ways to help you move forward with your marketing. Okay, in closing today, I'd like to say thank you very much for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed today's webinar, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Goodbye.